Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, why are we talking about that? Because I saw an article that queried, why is Monster Hunter Wilds not flopping like Dragon Age the Veilguard did? Now, if you play video games, if you enjoy any video game franchise at all, you could probably answer this question just off the top of your head. It's a really easy answer. In fact, it's one of those questions that why are you asking that? It's like, why is the sky blue? Well, because it is, right? Like the sky is blue because of the fucking composition of the air and the way the light reflects off of it. And then the sea is blue because it's reflecting the sky, right? Like it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is, right? But the reason why Monster Hunter Wilds is popular, whereas Veilguard wasn't, is that Veilguard tried very hard through the entirety of its production cycle to do one thing. It tried to, actually two things. It tried to establish itself as better than all the games that came before it. Already that's a bad thing. We had lines that I'm going to be paraphrasing here because I don't fully remember them, because I've been trying not to look at Veilguard shit for a while, because it's a trash game and I don't want to think about it anymore. But they had lines such as, the companions are now actually well written. This is the first Dragon Age where the combat is actually fun. And other lines of similar nature, right? And I'm sure we all understand what that does to a fan base. When the vast majority of the people in your fan base acknowledges that the game with the best combat was Dragon Age Origins, when the vast majority of your fan base acknowledges that the companions were really good already, and when the vast majority of your fan base looks at the trailer that you've been putting out and goes, this is the wrong vibe, that's maybe a sign that making a massive change to your franchise isn't good. What did Monster Hunter Wilds not do out of these things? Oh, it didn't do any of them. In fact, it took everything from the previous games that worked and it put it in. And it said, hey guys, we're going to be adding one little thing that is new. You can have two weapons. A few other changes. We listened to you when you said in Worlds that, hey, we don't like it when all of the weapons look the same. So we're going to take that into account. I still haven't gotten around to playing Wilds. I've been trying to keep myself as spoiler-free as I can. It's in my wish list. I'll get to it eventually. But Monster Hunter Wilds has been very thorough about wanting to be not just a better game than the previous ones in the franchise, but to still be faithful to the other games in the franchise. Veilguard, on the other hand, Veilguard looked to the open world of Inquisition and said, that wasn't a good decision. I think that the open world of Inquisition was a little bit too big for the game that it was. I think the mounts in Inquisition were a bad decision because they do nothing. Like, they straight up admit, like, the mounts only give you, like, a 20% or something. I think, is it 20%? I think so. I'd have to go check. A 20% increase in movement speed, and it has a sprint button that does nothing. Literally, it doesn't speed you up at all. And then while you're mounted, you can't traverse the terrain as well. So being mounted is actually detrimental most of the time, unless you're just walking in a straight line in a specific direction. Which, let's be honest, how often is that happening? Not very. The dragon fights in Inquisition were fun-ish. I think that the dragon fights were something that Veilguard improved upon. So, hey, props to you, man. You did one thing right. The itemization in Inquisition was also bad. They should have gone back to they should have gone back to, specific unique items, which they did in Veilguard again. Itemization and dragon fights were good in Veilguard, in my opinion. But other than that, the game failed on all of the things that people want out of Dragon Age. People go into a Dragon Age game because they want fun RPG mechanics. Veilguard didn't have those. You didn't get to build your own character. You didn't get to have your own party, which is something that Dragon Age does, right? Like every single character in your party is built in the same way as your protagonist. It's a thing in Dragon Age. It's a thing in CRPGs in general, right? Origins was the only one who was a CRPG. Why was it the only CRPG? Well, because, and this is a pretty big deal for me, right? I think that this is a thing that most RPGs should strive to do. The player and the enemies mostly play by the same rules. When you see an enemy cast a spell, it's the same spell that you can cast. It has the same stats, which means that if you have a mage in your party and you see a spell, you're like, what does that spell do? Pause the game, check the spell. Oh, it does this. Okay, I can counter it like that. Awesome, right? Much better than what the other games did, in my opinion, where they went much more action-oriented, which, fair enough, but personally, I like the CRPG style more. And the success of Baldur's Gate 3 kind of means that most people agree with me. Other than that, there was the matter of, balance, how everything turns into a bullet sponge, especially in Veilguard, where a lot of enemies, unless you're really well built and really strong, I didn't have this problem because, I'm good at these types of games. I was able to figure out a good build. I was like, let's stack these modifiers here, and everything was dying in 3-4 hits. Even bosses were getting melted. But a lot of people had the problem with that, which means that the balancing is bad. Now, I've been shitting on Veilguard for the past 5 minutes. So, let's actually read this article and see, do they mention any of these things? The main one being, the difference between Monster Hunter Wilds and Veilguard is that, well, Monster Hunter Wilds was faithful to its franchise, whereas Veilguard was not. But let's read on. Monster Hunter Wilds is the latest entry in the long-running RPG series. Is Monster Hunter an RPG? I don't know that I would consider it an RPG, but I guess it could be. It has RPG mechanics. I guess. I would have to think about that. It's the most approachable entry in the franchise yet. It may have lost some of its identity in the process of sanding down some of its more unique features, but the developers made that sacrifice in hopes of reaching a bigger audience. I don't know that they did that. I think that they streamlined some of the major features that people enjoyed the most and made it easier for you to participate in those without like having to go through a hassle. But there is a difference between sanding down a feature and taking it out entirely to make it more accessible and taking that feature and honing it to an edge so it works better. Right? Because things that work better tend to be more accessible. So I don't know. I have yet to see anybody mention anything regarding Wilds being sanded down for accessibility, right? Regardless. Where have I heard this one before? Oh, right. Dragon Age the Veilguard is the latest entry in a long-running RPG series. It's the most approachable. No, it's not. It may have lost some of its identity. It lost all of it because it wanted to. Sending out some of its more unique features. No, it didn't. It didn't. All right. You want to know what was unique about Dragon Age? Really good NPCs that you could interact with. If you sand that shit down, what the fuck are we playing Dragon Age for? A really good are you fucking stupid? Who wrote this? What the hell are you talking? You want to know what you need to do when you make a game, especially if it's in a franchise? You need to lean into that franchise. That's it. That's all you need to do. Oh, okay, what do people like about Origins? Okay, let's do that. You want to know something amazing? We can look at the charts for Dragon Age Origins. 1 second. I am struggling with Google. We can look at the charts for Dragon Age Origins. I kind of want the Ultimate Edition. This is not giving me the Ultimate Edition stats. Okay, so this is Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition. You see how it says 8,000 right there? That is the first game in the franchise remastered for PC, right? 8,000. This is Inquisition. The peak was 9 months ago, but it's not that much higher than it was before, right? So the very concept that they tried to lean into what they did in Inquisition rather than what they did in Origins shows that they had no idea what they were doing. None whatsoever. They should have gone, okay, what we're going to do with the success of Baldur's Gate 3, with Dragon Age Origins being more successful than any other game in the franchise, what we're going to do, and I'm talking about, like, critically, so, like, the reviews of the people, right? What we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to make it as close to the aesthetic and the gameplay of Origins as possible. And if they had done that, Dragon Age would be back. 100%. Dragon Age would be the best it's ever been. Because people are starved for a good RPG, especially a good CRPG. Now, Baldur's Gate 3 was really good. Baldur's Gate 3 had a lot of stuff in it, but a little janky. I think if they had taken the gameplay loop of Origins, they had taken the skills and all that stuff, it would have been awesome. You want to know another thing that Veilguard did? It went so far as to change the names of the elemental damage types. Yeah. Since Origins, you have physical damage, which is just fucking whack people with weapons. Then you have fire, cold, cold. Nature, which is poison and stuff like that. Spirit, and lightning. You want to know what they have in Veilguard? Physical damage, whatever. Let's be honest, physical damage is mostly not really a thing to concern yourselves with in Veilguard, because mostly everybody can do elemental damage, which is stupid in Dragon Age, by the way. You shouldn't be doing anything that even amounts to magical-esque unless you're a mage. Regardless. And then they had fire, they had ice, they had lightning, and then instead of nature and spirit, they had necrotic. What the fuck is necrotic? And then on top of that, you know, you had iconic abilities like Mighty Blow, Shield Bash, Winter's Grasp, which is just a spell, causes that target to be, you know, frozen in ice. You had Fireball, you had Chain Lightning. You know how many of those were in Veilguard? Not a single one. Not a single one. Iconic abilities that have been in the game since always, that are abilities that are the bread and butter of their specific classes. Winter's Grasp is the spell you cast the most if you're an elemental mage. Literally, it's a single target spell. It's cheap. It freezes the guy and deals a bunch of damage, and cold damage too, which a lot of humanoids are weak to in Origins. So yeah, really good spell. Mighty Blow automatically crits. It's an ability that a two-hander can use. Automatically crits. Is that in the game? No, it's not. They took that out. Veilguard went out of its way not just to simplify itself, which it didn't do. It completely changed its gameplay loop. It completely changed the way it tells the story, and it alienated its old audience by changing the base of the gameplay loop. Dragon Age Veilguard does not deserve the Dragon Age title, whereas Monster Hunter Wilds does deserve the title of Monster Hunter, because it still has the exact same gameplay loop, it still has the exact same storytelling method, and it still has all of the exact same things that you want on a Monster Hunter game. You fight big-ass monsters with roughly the same gameplay as you've had for, you know, the entire franchise, with minor differences and improvements here and there, and you have the fashion, which now, from my understanding, the fashion, the making your own armor and, you know, customizing it so it looks how you want, has been simplified. Not simplified, has been made more accessible. That is how you do approachability. But so let's see. Approachability for me, but not for thee. This article is pissing me off if you can't tell. Monster Hunter Wilds has been a huge hit, shifting 8 million copies in its first 3 days. That's how you do a hit, by the way. Like, that, right there. I'm honestly like I'm wondering whether it's gonna be KCD 2 or Monster Hunter Wilds that gets Game of the Year this year. Making it the fastest selling game in Capcom history, beating the previous 3-day record set by Monster Hunter World's 5 million copy start. Worlds was awesome. I loved Worlds. It was the first Monster Hunter game that I played all the way through. Before I had played Freedom Unite on the PlayStation Portable, I never really super got into it. I was young. I didn't like fully understand the things, and I didn't want to like Google stuff. I was still not in my prime when it comes to gaming. But as I write this, Wilds is still the #1 seller on Steam and will likely be sticking around the top 10 for quite a while. Though we don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, it's safe to say that the gambit worked. What gambit? They just leaned in. You're stupid. Capcom went after the audience that had been scared off by previous games' unfriendly reputation and reeled them in, hook, line, and sinker with a streamlined on-ramp, easier fights, and a greater emphasis on story and characters. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? All this same stuff was said about Worlds. It's like, oh, it's easier. Yeah, because it's the base campaign. They've always said they want the base campaign to be easy. It's the stuff that comes after in the post-game that they want to be hard. Whatever. Dragon Age the Veilguard, meanwhile, only managed to shift 1.5 million units. False. False. This is untrue. They did not shift 1.5 million units. They did not sell that many units. What they did was they engaged 1.5 million players. This includes people who got the game for free. Yeah. That low number was surprising given that Veilguard enjoyed EA's best single-player Steam release ever with 70,000 launch day concurrent players. You want to know why that is their best thing? Because it's the first time that they only released on Steam. Right? That's why. That's the whole reason. That is the start and the stop of that. You've had these players before. You've had more. If we go and check on Veilguard now, I'm pretty sure that the Steam charts are not... Yeah. I'm gonna bring up the Origins one again. So 15-year-old game. 5-month-old game. These should not be this close. I do think that the vast majority of the people's hesitance to play Origins, though, is that it's a little janky and it crashes a lot. It's why I say that they need to remaster Origins. They need to just make it better. And here's the thing. Here's how they would make Dragon Age a breadwinner again. They remaster Origins. Oh, but we don't know how. Figure it out. I can't stress this. Figure it the fuck out, right? Figure it out. Right? God damn it. Figure out how to do that. And then remaster it. Make it not crash constantly. And then give us the campaign editor so we can make our own games and make that a massive selling point. People have been begging for that for Baldur's Gate 3. People are already making their own campaigns, even though we're not supposed to be able to, because they like created a mod that gives people access to the campaign editor. And people are begging, Larian, please let us make our own campaigns, because we want to do that. You want to know what's going to happen as soon as people get to do that, though, by the way? Guaranteed. First thing that happens, people are going to remake Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. That's number one. And number two, Dragon Age Origins. Other massive CRPGs that are super popular are getting remade. Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, maybe Planescape Torment. That would actually be really interesting to see in the Baldur's Gate 3 engine. I think that would be a lot of work, though. Like, they'd have to work on a lot of stuff. I think that it's possible, right? They can do it. But I think it'd be hard. And other classic RPGs are getting remade as soon as they give us that. Because people want that. People are starving for this stuff. Veilguard flopped hard. Veilguard managed to go into a soup kitchen for the poor and somehow make some shit that no one wanted to eat. Regardless, it seems like that strong debut was largely caused by the Dragon Age faithful showing up in huge numbers on the strength of love for the series and strong reviews. Once players actually got their hands on the game, though, the tides quickly turned and Veilguard was unable to break out into the mainstream. Yeah, because it sucked. Yeah, see. $12 million copies for Inquisition. Both games were attempting to grow beyond their established fan bases to reach a more mainstream audience and delivered a somewhat watered-down experience. Wild, I've heard no one say that Wilds is watered down at all. So why did the strategy work? Not to mention, like, I'm pretty sure Wilds actually expanded on most of the mini games and most of like the gameplay loop the gameplay outside of the main loop. I mean, so stupid thing to say. Most straightforward answer is that Monster Hunter had a lot more rough edges to sand off. Ugh, this guy doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. I'm pretty much done reading this. Streamlined in every way. Trade and Inquisition's open world for a level-based structure. You mean like Origins? And DA2. And levels were hyperlinear. Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. Like, you don't want hyperlinearity in RPGs. Dialogue choices were superficial, allowing for little real roleplay. The combat was not that fun. Yeah, I mean, most people didn't find it fun. I found it okay. Whatever. But simple. Action RPG fare, which the problem with it being action RPG fare is that you didn't lean into the action RPG. You want to know what you should have done? Instead of going, oh, we'll just do it like God of War, where it's like really simplified. You should have actually gone like, let's go DMC. Let's go Devil May Cry. You want to know why? You want to know why? Because when you look at a genre, you should look at the peak of it, not at the mid. God of War Ragnarok, mid gameplay. The gameplay was mid. 2016, mid gameplay. It was mid. It wasn't amazing. It was a 6 out of 10 gameplay. The story was good. The story was a 9 out of 10, but the gameplay, nothing special. Nothing to write home about. If you want to make an action RPG, yeah, you look at you look at Devil May Cry. I'd say action RPG. Hack and slash, which is what they made the combat into. You look at Devil May Cry. You look at that. If we had had Devil May Cry with abilities that were themed around the abilities from Origins, the spells and stuff like that, you know, Fireball, all of that shit, right? And for the love of God, combos like in Origins. Seriously, just give us back the combos from Origins. What the fuck are these synergies? Oh my God, that pit. Oh my God. The aesthetic of Veilguard was all over the fucking place. So fucking stupid. So fucking generic. Like, seriously, I look at this picture, and if you told me that this was from Avowed instead, I would believe you. Like, as BioWare remade Dragon Age 2 Baby's first RPG, Larian was stepping in with a crunchier take on the studio's approach to design. Anyone who's disappointed, yep. Get out of here. Yeah, Monster Hunter is basically the only game of its kind in town. The devs behind Dauntless, an indie competitor, announced that the game would shut down. Oh yeah, Dauntless was ass. Dauntless could have been good, but they got greedy. Yeah, also, I have heard no one even imply that Monster Hunter Wilds is at all watered down. But hey, if it is watered down, I haven't played it yet. As I said, I'm trying to stay mostly blind. I'm trying to... the only thing I've seen is like a few shots of like the Arkveld fight, because that's what's everywhere. And some people posting their transmogs. I am trying to stay mostly blind. But if Monster Hunter Wilds is in fact a watered-down version of Monster Hunter, let me know. I'm trying to see other people's point of view on this. Regardless, this article was written by somebody who doesn't do gaming. Like, so very obviously. I don't even give a shit who wrote it. That article was not written by somebody who knows what they're talking about. But, with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Like, subscribe, and cheers!